We're going to go ahead and get started. We are at the top of the hour. So as usual, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. Thank you for joining. If you're new, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. So real quickly, I'm just going to go through some logistical information and then we'll get into our content for today. So there we go. So as usual, this is always for you. We create these sessions for you in mind. So we try as hard as we can, like it says, to bring fresh ideas, better understanding, and practical guidance as it relates to platform analytics, performance analytics, reporting, next experience analytics, all of those things. So that's why we do these. This is being recorded and it will actually be out in the community later on this afternoon or tomorrow morning, depending on when I get the recording. It's also going to be out on our YouTube channel as well as usual. Q&A, please ask questions. Please feel free to ask questions relating to content that we're covering today or relating to content that's something else. I do ask that you put it into the Q&A rather than the chat, if at all possible. We do have panelists here that are going to be or can answer questions via type. Some will be live and some will be answered via type, but we do have some people that are actually monitoring that. So if those can be answered while some of the content is being going over, we definitely want to try to make sure that we can do that. Safe harbor. So there's definitely some safe harbor stuff in this content that we'll be talking about today. So just keep that in mind as you're listening and asking questions, and of course, then going back to your organization and making statements and things like that. So just make sure that you please keep the safe harbor in mind. So my name is Thomas Davis, and we have returning RJ or Robert Jean and Marta and Olga are here, and and also any one of these three could be rolling in. I think they all might be here, but we'll definitely be happy to have whoever. So as you can see, we made a part two of this. So this was kind of an unusual situation that we've had, but we had gotten together after the call 2 weeks ago, because it did go the full time and actually went over about 3 minutes. And we all got together and we just had some conversation around whether or not we felt that we were able to dedicate enough time to this based on the great questions that were coming in, because we did have very fluid questions that were coming in the whole time. And RJ thought it'd be a good idea to have a part two. And we're going to do that today, where he's simply going to do a real quick recap. And actually, the video from 2 weeks ago is out in the community, and we'll make sure that we put it into the chat here in a second, but or he may have it in a slide deck, but that will go over everything that he did 2 weeks ago. What he won't go into as much depth that he did 2 weeks ago with the content. He just wants to do a recap, and then he's going to do some demo, and then we have a couple poll questions that we're going to ask you to hopefully generate some things, some thought inside of your mind and your organization. And then again, questions, please ask questions related to this. If you weren't able to ask a question 2 weeks ago and you were here 2 weeks ago and you still have that question in mind, please feel free to ask that question. Any other questions that come in that are unrelated to the content that we're covering, we'll try as hard as we can to get those answered. Those may be answered via type. If it is something that is live, then we may wait towards the end of the hour where we have done everything with this related content, and then we'll open up to answer any of those. So again, we did push off the session that, if you were coming here today to say related list and dot walking and things of that, that will be 2 weeks from now. We just felt it was important to give this just a little bit more time. So that's what we wanted to do. So with that, I will definitely pass it over to RJ if you're ready.
I am ready. Can you hear me?
We can. Yep.
Cool. Let me grab the screen. Here we go. Let's one check if the environment is there, because I will be showing a demo. Yeah, that's working. Okay, back to the deck. First of all, it's nice to be called an unusual session. Haven't had that one before, I guess. But again, thanks for having me again to be back. To Thomas and the team, thanks for allowing me that other session. We indeed talked about it after the session we did 2 weeks ago, and I personally felt we left a bit in a hurry. Yes, I gave you a ton of information on that, what I call that generic value proposition and those individual benefits of doing your in-platform analytics in the next experience. But we didn't really have the opportunity to, I guess, really talk about it. And then with really talk, I mean this two-way type of conversation. Plus, I guess this is a topic that we feel we need to over communicate, basically to the level of where you either tell me, okay, Robert, it's enough. We heard it. Let's move on. Or I myself think that I'm almost doing this propaganda type of communication to you. But just to let you know, as the analytics team, and many of them are indeed also now here as panelists, we are absolutely committed to do a lot of this messaging around this. We are super excited around the change itself, the features and the capabilities that are better. But we also realize it's still a change for you. So you will be seeing a lot of messaging on this topic, maybe in communities, maybe in documentation, in our customer-facing programs, but also within this Platform Academy. So we had the session 2 weeks ago. We do the session today. I think even early November, Marta will actually be back for showcasing the actual, what we call the activation or the migration flow. And after that, we'll again come back to you to give you sort of an update on where we are with training and enablement material. So back to today, Thomas already mentioned, I will be doing a quick recap of the session I did 2 weeks ago. It will be super high level, about, I guess, 15 to 20 minutes, just to get you either in that mindset again, or for those that might have not been in the previous session, to really understand what is happening here. But again, if you do want the full details, of course, please watch the replay of that previous session that you can find in the Platform Academy video library on the community site. And maybe one of the panelists or Thomas, you can just put the link in the chat for folks to, because I didn't put it in the slide actually.
Yeah, I just popped it into the chat, so it's in the chat for everyone.
Perfect. So that is the one that has all the details, all the in-depth information, an hour long of me talking, but I think it's good information. Today, after I've gone through those highlights, I will do a quick demo of a few dashboards that actually went through that activation migration flow, just to make you aware and see the end result of them. So I will actually not showing the whole flow. That's the part that Marta will do early November. But what I will actually just show, like, okay, this is what you can expect once your dashboards actually move into what we call the next experience analytics. And then after that, I think we as the analytics team, we would like to take just the remaining time just to talk about it, just open the floor for questions. And indeed, we have some of those polls. But of course, always feel free to already add your questions in the Q&A, or maybe other thoughts or feelings that you have on everything in the chat. Okay. When I talk about the platform analytics experience, or in some cases, I might refer to it as the analytics you do on the next experience, I do mean the near future way of using analytics in our platform. And this is the only way. So we're flipping the current way of working with all that analytics that we have in the Core UI 16, all those solutions like dashboards, the reports that you build into these new improved experiences. And what is good to understand, and what I might not have emphasized enough in previous session, as actually during the session I got a question on it, is timing of things. And I will actually show a slide in a bit on release timelines, but many of the capabilities that I'm showing, for example, here on these 3 screens that you're seeing, those are already possible. They're technically already there. Some we've actually already maybe showed in Academy sessions before also. And what we've mentioned on them, it's actually good practice to just try them out, already get familiar with them. But the fact also is that they were always isolated, as we made them part of what we now in Tokyo and Utah and even Vancouver are calling the Platform Analytics workspace. And usage numbers of those are simply as they are there to create something new, but of course your existing content isn't there. So with your dashboards and with your reports missing, it's actually hard to get your users to use something new, and we totally get that. But do know that this session is not on those individual features, but on more on how we get you there, to change your analytics way of working to only use the improved analytics experience. Now, in this recap, I will be focusing on basically two things. One, what is the overall benefit of moving to the platform analytics experience? So what is that value proposition? Why should you be moving? Why should you care? And two, I'll talk about your biggest incentive to move, and most likely the reason that you didn't really adopt it so far being your own analytics content. So all those dashboards, those PA widgets, those reports that you created over time, if those are still in the core UI, you will most likely not move your way of working to that next experience. This we always heard was your biggest requirement. This is where you said, to shift my quote unquote analytics way of working, I gonna need my data, and rightfully so. Of course, we allowed you to create all that content over all those years. You shouldn't have to recreate them in this next experience. So soon we are delivering that way to move your content over, and with that, it's actually time to then accelerate on things like enablement and training, but also generic messaging around the next experience analytics. And that is something that we are doing, that we are committed to accelerate on that, but it's also something that you will most likely have to think about within your organizations. Like, how do we get our users across and familiar with these features and this way of working? So back to that value proposition, the next experience analytics solutions, they do have a few super strong benefits over the way that you are used to do your analytics. Where top level, that value is improving the user experience around creation and consumption of analytics. So bringing your analytics more centralized instead of disjointed, and make it part of your other workflows that you might be using. And mostly, which I tend to call this secret sauce that we're applying in next. And Olga is in the call, so she can talk all about it. But it's the fact that we can do analytics, what we call data source agnostic. And that data source agnostic approach really allows us to create features and capabilities more unified, more consistent, just one way to do everything. And I will talk a little bit about these in the coming slides. So if I look into this unified first, when we always looked at analytics capabilities and features in the core UI 16, it often felt disjointed, whether you were using dashboards or maybe just things within performance analytics or reporting. It almost felt like separate, isolated apps within the platform. And that is something that we are actually solving in the next experience. We're bringing everything together into this one more cohesive analytics experience, what we say, all analytics under one roof. And also immediately that with an improved user experience, more intuitive, to actually in a few clicks allow you to create, consume, or just find your analytics content. So we're actually getting rid of the what we feel to be siloed experiences where we force you to navigate to all these different areas of the platform that often also brought their own way to learn and really use the feature as well. They came with their own way of working. So we fixed where those analytics tools actually reside and brought them all into this single analytics home where you can just find everything. And with that, we also changed the navigation into analytics. So no more separated analytics menus, and even no more analytics hidden away in a workspace UI. And I mentioned hidden away for workspace UI. During that Tokyo, Utah, and Vancouver state, we have those features now in what we call the Platform Analytics workspace. But we're actually changing that. We're changing that as well, because we still feel that's somewhat disjointed. Putting it there, and as you see, it's currently being maybe within your own instance as part of that workspace, as part of Platform Analytics workspace. It's just not where you would expect analytics to be. We want analytics just there where your data is. And also user experience wise, it doesn't really follow the workspace persona pattern, where usually those are targeted around this single user persona that just starts somewhere with a workflow task, and they do something with that task, and then they end that task, and that's basically their workflow within a workspace. We feel that doesn't work for analytics, so we made the decision to actually take everything analytics also out of the workspace and actually directly into the left side menu. So on next level charting, the following, we did improve also our charts. So not just visually, like the look and feel of them, but also on the chart options within. So configuration options as well as styling options. We, whenever we are now supporting a chart in what we call the next experience, we want to make it immediately better, just better visually, but also better on options and things that you can do with the data. And then for this one, most importantly, that secret sauce that I was talking about before, we made them data source agnostic. And that means regardless of the data source underneath, the analytics that you build or just use in your consumption, it just works the same. So no more different behaviors as you are consuming charts that are using maybe indicator data from performance analytics versus tables from reporting, or maybe metric based, or maybe usage analytics data. And that itself enabled us to bring that consistency that we were striving for. So for you as the end user, whether you create or consume an analytics chart, it just works the same. So following up on that consistency, that data source agnostic approach has its effect in all the solutions that we're building and bringing into the next experience, with the goal, of course, to make it easier for you to learn, to adopt, to just use those features. Just by delivering one way to create your analytics instead of 3 or 4, and one way that charts behave when you're consuming them, or when other widgets on the dashboard maybe interact with them. This allowed us, for example, to out of box solve that frustration that we always heard around the difference of breakdown filters versus interactive filters. Those were both filters that basically try to do the same thing, but they work differently based on the data source that they were using underneath. So that is something that is already saved within or solved within the next experience. And we're moving also away from all the different builders in the classic UI, and not that they were really bad, but mostly the issue there was that they were different. And because of the fact that they were different, they force you to learn all these different features that came with those, and it really hurt adoption. So we're bringing the visualization designer that will enable you to basically create your data visualizations based on any type of data source underneath. We're also bringing the new dashboard editor in the next, with immediately a ton of extra features over the responsive dashboards that we had in core. Absolutely too many to mention here. If I would highlight what I personally think is the biggest benefit, is the fact that you now build the dashboard actually in context of the rest of the dashboard. So before in the core UI experiences, when you would go to a dashboard, you technically already needed to have all the content stored somewhere, saved somewhere, so that you can put it on a dashboard. The thing that you can do right now with the new dashboard editor is you can literally build the analytics on the dashboard while you see the rest of the dashboard. And that really helps you actually create stronger and meaningful dashboards out there. And by the way, maybe if I do need to add one other benefit that came with the dashboard, is we did also solve for that other ask that we saw mentioned a lot in communities and idea portal, where you always had to like individually share the reports once you shared a dashboard. So what happens now is upon your share of your dashboard in the new, it will actually immediately make the underlying content available for the end user that you share it with. Proactive analytics. This is more of a new feature. It's not available in core UI, but it is already there as of the I believe already from the Utah Vancouver release. It's super powerful as we really want to deliver you the insights of what is actually happening inside your analytics data, and then directly to you. So giving you the meaningful information, maybe even before you thought you need, allowing you to immediately take some in-platform actions on them. Plus, in the next UI, we also immediately improved the exploratory tools. So Analytics Hub in the core UI was absolutely great, but we even made that exploration tool in the next UI more feature-rich, and also around how you can manage your targets and thresholds. And next to all that, you will also see a stronger integration with other platform tools and workflows. So not just the ability to consume analytics everywhere, for example, as part of your workflows, but also the ability to really integrate the analytics to other capabilities. Like, for example, tying analytics to something like Flow Designer for taking immediately that workflow action, or maybe to continuous service improvement if you immediately want to create some improvement initiative, or maybe to process mining. And then looking forward to X and Y, the Xanadu and Yokohama release. All the things that I mentioned before are already there, but absolutely there are much more things coming in the next experience analytics. The near future product enhancements that I actually mentioned them in the session 2 weeks ago. I mentioned all of them in detail, so I will not go through them in this session. But I just want to emphasize that the analytics investment there on many of the needs, as you actually requested them, are being built on the platform analytics experience. So we're bringing them there. And again, just the fact that we can now deliver analytics in that more unified and data source agnostic approach, that means that we can actually deliver much faster, as any type of enhancement that we're doing immediately applies, or just with a little bit of extra work applies to a wider set of features and a wider set of data sources underneath. Okay, so back to the change itself and the timeline. This is the timeline on when you can actually utilize the things I just mentioned, including using them with your own existing content. So again, I mentioned that many of the capabilities itself, they are already there. They are in what we up so far positioned as part of the platform analytics workspace. But we're moving it out. So with Washington, with the change that I'm talking about here now, it's when that navigation will change, when everything will be under that single analytics roof, and we're actually moving your existing content over to these next experiences. By the way, the reason we are moving to this single way of working instead of just multiple different environments is just simply around first of all, the limitations of the core UI solutions, the difficult adoption of the features that just reside there, plus of course technical depth. So we don't want we want to prevent you from adding any technical depth by creating a lot of content in different environments. With Washington, the Washington release will be available mid next year. So you will have the ability to, with Washington, opt in and activate that next experience analytics. Meaning with that, the new analytics home and all those analytics features will be your defaults, your analytics defaults. And your current content, so your reports, your dashboards are actually moved. They're migrated into next experience analytics. So you can consume and configure them in the new solutions. Then with Xanadu, which will, I guess, then be available at the end of 2024, we follow the same approach for you as existing customers going through the upgrade. New customers by Xanadu will actually only get the next experience analytics UIs. They will not get those previous core UI versions anymore around dashboards and reports and creating PA widgets and so on. And then with Yokohama, which will then be available mid-2025, upon upgrade, we will actually activate the next experience analytics for you. So making sure that we will move all the customers to that similar way of working. The reason around this approach the timeline that I'm showing here is simply also around enablement. We want you to move into that next experience analytics, but also be fully adopted on that. So making sure that you get all the value that's in those features, but we also know that those things usually take some time for you to maybe internally get your teams ready and the users ready. So for those that are already ready and excited to actually make that switch, that option is there as of Washington, as of Xanadu. But those that would not be ready, we provide at least a year and a half, or maybe even 2 years, depending on which release you uptake, to really get your own users trained and enabled on this next experience. One quick slide on the options. So, and I will not go too deep in this because this is literally the part that Marta will be showcasing in the November session, where she will actually go through one of those flows and show what will happen. Basically, you will have 3 options. One being you activate, and that activation meaning you make that next experience analytics your only analytics default and start the migration of your content. Then 2, it says try it, more of a sandbox mode, a tryout period. This option is really there for people to start using the features and capabilities in the next, while still having their analytics way of working and their content maybe in core UI experiences. This is more of a temporary state, I would say, which really allows you to already move maybe some areas of your content over. So you have the ability of the migration solution in this step to migrate dashboards and contents to maybe test or maybe get certain departments over more in this controlled way, in this more change management type of way, when you really want to guide certain teams into, okay, this is what we can do, and let's, in a more controlled way, bring you over to that other experience. And then the third one is basically do nothing or postpone. Though I wouldn't say do nothing, because I think if this is your choice, it's still the time also now already to really get your people engaged and maybe already enabled and trained in such a way as in, this is a change that is coming. It might still take a while, but let's be ready for it. By the way, and I bet Marta will also mention that in the session later, during the activation migration flow, we are actually also, our intent is to deliver some information on things like usage of dashboards and reports, to actually enable you to see what dashboards are being used, which might not be used at all. And with that, immediately provide you the option to maybe archive them, because those might be a good candidate to actually get rid of the dashboard. We created a lot of content over there in the last years. So this might be a good opportunity to actually get rid of some of that content. I think this is the last slide, then I'll jump into the demo. Quickly on enablement, I did mention that we are committed to do a lot of enablement. We want to go through all these customer programs. For example, these academy sessions, probably if Thomas and the team allowed me, you'll probably see us every other month or so, or every few sessions. Next to that, we are also working on what we internally call the enablement toolkit, which is a set of enablement and training material on the change itself, but also on the individual new features within, to really support you to maybe learn yourself, but also to use that material to maybe train others within your organizations. Okay, I will go into the instance. Thomas, are there any sort of burning questions or other things?
Well, I mean, most of them are getting answered via the panelists. And Dan, I don't know if you want to answer that one that you marked to do live now, or you want to wait till after
Sure.
the demo?
Yeah, because I think it's actually something I think several of us can really talk to. Brian asked the question of, or just saying it'd be nice to make PA widgets and components have more flexibility in terms of how data can be displayed. So that's there. So there, I think we've talked about before, but I want to kind of clarify on it. There really are 2 different modes for creating dashboard content, starting with Next Experience. There is the inline editor, which is closer to the existing dashboards that you have today. Much more capabilities in it. But the ability to actually customize or configure the way a visualization is made is much more limited. The second way is actually the advanced dashboard or through the UI builder. There you can do just about anything you want from from how you want to visualize, how you want to display your data. But that's intended to be an admin kind of pro coder for now at least environment, whereas the inline editor is intended to be where the majority of our PA content creators would be. So, if anyone else had anything else, any other folks had something you want to add in on that?
Yeah, we're trying to generally give more flexibility, both in more data options, more formatting options, and more just styling options. We're still, at this moment, not planning to be Tableau to change any pixels, to make sure that people don't shoot themselves in the foot. But if there's any specific features you're looking at, you can ask on specific your top request, and we can see if that's already available, planned, or we didn't thought about it yet.
Yeah, and maybe if I add to that, I think that's correct. If I work with the charts myself, I've seen them already evolve over the last few releases to be by itself, just out of box, more feature rich, that you can do things around aggregation, around sorting, and all these other things with them. So hopefully many of those use case needs might already be solved. I think to Dan's point, what he was mentioning, if you go the more technical route, so if you don't do your dashboards in what we call the simple inline editor that we think should be there for any type of analytics user, but you do have more technical knowledge and maybe almost dev-like knowledge, you could technically build anything. You can maybe massage the data in such a way before you actually load it into the chart that anything becomes possible. Any other question, or should I move on?
I think Olga and Marta are taking care of a couple.
Okay, I'll just continue, and after that we can just open up
that'll work.
for more. So this is just a normal instance, one of my test instances. The few things that I wanted to show on that, specifically those two things that I mentioned. One being the fact that we're positioning analytics to be sort of your everything under one roof, under one analytics home where everything is. So what you'll see is analytics actually being its own separate menu item over here. And within this, whether I go to My Analytics, it will actually bring me to the Analytics Center, or I immediately click on the subparts of that, being dashboards or data visualizations or your KPIs, your indicators, and most likely those coming now from performance analytics, or maybe your filters, you can immediately jump there. The fact that it's consistent and unified and data source agnostic means we don't have those separate areas anymore per data source. Like before, you would have reporting with all its menu items, you would have performance analytics, and who knows which other data source. They basically, any type of chart that's built on top of a data source would now for us just be a data visualization. And within that data visualization, you actually configure, or you configure the data source and you configure the chart itself. Another thing that I mentioned was Platform Analytics Workspace. So we do agree. We heard a comment also from some of you, as well as when we thought about the whole like UX pattern that we're using, it didn't really fit with the analytics user. That could be any type of user coming in, doing any type of thing. Actually, it's not so fixed with a workflow task start and a workflow task end and some things in between. It could technically be anything. It's basically an analytics experience that should actually be just as integrated with the platform as anything is, as your data is. Analytics can be anywhere. So if I actually go, I can quickly jump over here. This is the current state of the Analytics Center, again, with your quick entries into things like dashboards and data visualizations. One thing that I wanted to show was actually how do dashboards, as you had them in the core UI, how would they actually show when they are migrated. So one thing that I will do over here, and I will actually for that go to an example, and this is actually an example of one of our out-of-the-box dashboards that we ship out of the box, in this case with field services. They have a performance analytics dashboard out there. But this could, of course, technically be your dashboard, any type of dashboard that you created in the core UI responsive dashboards. So this dashboard, once I took it through the migration, it actually shows like this. So this is that new dashboard. I'll take another example with again, field service management overview. Two nice pie charts here and a bar chart. When I take it through migration, let's go to the field service management overview over here. Again, the same pie charts and a bar chart. So it's there. Let's take the last one here as well, incident overview. This one you might know, this is one of the more used, I think, of the out-of-the-box dashboards, this incident overview dashboard with the single scores, with the filtering, with the other charts here, with the bar charts and the heat maps, and there's some trending over here. Let's go to incident overview. And here we go. So this is the new one, again, with the filtering, with the scores and everything. So this is something that we are currently working on to make that whole migration and that moving content from the old into the new as flawless as possible. So we are working on that, but we are already using it internally and we are seeing amazing results. So that is absolutely a good thing. Maybe one more example here. I had the asset overview in this one. Again, a core UI dashboard. In this one, I also moved it into this the next experience. I brought it through the migration. So again, this was the old, this is the new. And I actually, for this one, I went a little bit further and I recreated that dashboard in a pretty easy way, as the new dashboard editor allows us to do. So this is actually another version of that same dashboard that's, I believe, more insightful. And as you can see, as I go more into the edit mode, see the skeleton of the dashboard. This is still as easy as it always was with the easy drag and drop, but as I also mentioned, the big benefit of the new dashboard inline editor, where I can actually configure these widgets here on the fly while I'm actually looking at the rest of the content on the dashboard. It even gives me the decision to just save it on this dashboard, or maybe within a dashboard tab, maybe one of my own dashboards, or maybe save it as a new sort of stored data visualization artifact. So you actually add it to the library and it can be reused by others. So all these type of enhancements that we've done, many of the things that we heard actually from you, we immediately applied into these new dashboards. Yeah, that concludes my demo for this part. Again, in early November, Marta will actually bring you through the flow. I bet that I don't want to put her on the spot, but I bet she will actually run the activation flow live. Not sure if she would agree with what I'm saying right now, but
I agree.
Okay,
that's the plan.
That's the plan. Yeah, to make you see how it works and what it actually does in the background, and the information we give back, as well as, of course, the end result of your content being migrated into the next experience.
Okay, and questions are still being answered. I mean, we're getting a lot of questions that are coming in, and Olga and Dan and Marta are flying through those. So I think nice. we definitely have some more that are coming in. But let's do our first poll real quick, and we'll just look at that, and then it will continue to answer those questions either via type, or if there's something we can do out loud, we can definitely do that. So I'm going to go ahead and launch that first poll, and let's see what everyone thinks that they're probably going to do, which will kind of really help us. looks like opting in is winning. I'll show the results here in a second.
Just to add to that, and I think I mentioned it 2 weeks ago, the reason we want to, I'd want to, but also the rest of the team want to sort of interact with these polls and with through these Platform Academy sessions, and but also in direct calls that we might have with you, is literally because we want to learn from your thoughts, your feelings, how you're looking at this, still being a change, of course, but we think for the better. And with that, we really feel that this is a journey that we're sort of taking together, and hoping that we can make that transition as smooth as possible.
Okay, so I gave it about a minute. So here's our results. So it looks like that about half of the people in here actually responded, but it looks like that the plan is to definitely opt in Washington or Xanadu. So that's exciting to see. I'm glad, and I think it directly is correlating to these academy sessions, and RJ, the time that you're putting into evangelizing all this information. So that's really great.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if you actually have a poll question around that, but what I'm wondering on, like for the ones that choose opt in, is it that you feel you'd be ready, just like basically on the things that we've shown and new features, it will be easy to adopt into, so we can make that decision earlier, and the other way around, for the ones that might just decide to take the time until why, is it because you indeed feel that you need more time to get basically your whole user base enabled?
Oh, yeah. So this kind of correlates to that question, right? So how much time do they actually think that they would need to ramp up their organization with internal training and enablement and things of that sort? So get some good results here. They're coming in now, so I'll share those here after about a minute to make sure everybody has an opportunity to respond. One thing that I do want to, while they're doing this, a question came in from Peter, and it says, have taken the current application specialist certification training, but have not completed exam yet. How will this affect the current certification path? So if you're speaking about the performance analytics one, I will tell you that not any of the stuff that RJ has talked about will be in this latest examination that comes in, or even the Delta that is coming out for Vancouver. So you don't have to worry about any of this content here. Now, not to say that for Washington, Xanadu, and so forth, that I'm sure some information will be added into that. But for the current one for Vancouver, there shouldn't be anything in that is related to this.
No, correct. It's not impacting for sure. And indeed, like you mentioned, Thomas, over time we will add more things, especially where they hit the UI on, for example, dashboard creation or those new data visualization creation, that we add those to the existing trainings out there. Still, even to add there, many of the things that you might get, like in a performance analytics training or something else, might still be relevant. I talked about literally the things that are more the front end UI way of where you create or consume data visualizations, like on dashboards, or you create them in the visualization designer, or you explore them within KPI details and KPI signals. Many of the configuration of the specific sources underneath is actually not changing, or at least not yet. So those might still require the old way of doing through what we would be calling the core UI way, with data collections, with breakdown sources, indicator sources. So we're not immediately touching those areas. The more admin type of work, I would say.
Yeah, and I think based on these results that are showing here, I think this is really good. And like Robert John had said, you can expect to hear from him and Olga, and maybe even Marta. Well, definitely Marta early November. And I would say for the next foreseeable future, as we're going through all of these releases and what this is, you can expect to hear him in this Academy session every month or so. Maybe not every month, but every couple months, or maybe even once a quarter. We're definitely going to have, and we're going to help as much as we possibly can with the the enablement and evangelizing this and showing as much as we possibly can. I know that there'll be some additional blogs that will be created, and I know the docs will be full of a lot of great data information there. So and there may even be some, and we kind of talked to this, and we're still in the works, some little, not little, but some smaller videos that will show some different things, different ways to do stuff, little small, 3-4 minute videos that we'll make sure that we'll try to get out there as well to help with this whole process. So, and RJ, I don't know if you want to talk more about that or not.
No, exactly. It's I believe, and that's the thing that we're actually working on right now. It's the toolkit that will help you as the end user in learning to understand. But you should basically also grab those parts of that toolkit to maybe use within your own organization for training others, like small snippet videos, maybe small decks, as in, hey, this is a feature, this is what we intend with this. These are the problems we're trying to solve, and this is how it works.
And one question that I've actually seen a couple times now is, and maybe you can talk to this. So will this new Next Experience Analytics, will it give the ability to have some statistics on dashboard usage and which ones are being used, tabs being used, things like that, or showing that users are actually interacting with is that something that's on the horizon being planned, or will that come with it directly, or will that be later?
I can talk to it, but Marta, feel free to jump in. I believe we are immediately from the get-go adding more usage analytics stats around dashboards. Indeed, like, okay, which users are using it? How often is the dashboard being used? So that is already a nice extra information for you to understand around the dashboards that you create or consume.
Okay,
yes, I agree.
Yeah.
We leverage user experience analytics as much as possible for our dashboards and also for the other tools that we have regarding Visualization Designer and the pages that we support with the Analytics Center.
Yeah, and then actually also giving that information immediately back, right? In whether you are in configuration mode or consumption mode, to share some information with the end user, as in, hey, this dashboard you are on, or this dashboard that you create is actually being used by X amount of users, or something like that.
It's something that we want to have in the future releases, and something that we have right now. We would like to display that, for example, these dashboards has been viewed this many times. So what we display right now is when a visualization that is a saved visualization from the library is used in multiple dashboards. So whenever you do any changes to that visualization, to that saved visualization, or you are trying to delete it, we inform you of the impact that those changes will have.
Yeah. And Greg, to your question real quick. So the actual slide deck itself will not be in the community as a PowerPoint, but it will be there as a PDF. And I believe that this may even be the same deck that Robertjean used a couple of weeks ago, which is actually attached to that previous session, but I'll make sure that it's attached to this one as well. And like I said, that will be a PDF. Yep, no problem.
Correct. So I've been using the same deck. I hit a lot of pages that I was showing 2 weeks ago. Therefore, we were done earlier now. But indeed, so the information was there, and this is just a subset.
Okay.
I did see a quick question coming by from Vivek on KPI details. I did also mention that in the previous session, specifically on the enhancements of KPI details. It might also be a nice one to maybe bring back in the Platform Academy session again, to talk about things like KPI details, KPI signals, and specifically on top of that, what we call proactive insights, because everything is sort of related. But so the thing that we normally do within those exploratory UIs to find your anomalies and to find the analytics that are going on, we want to support the end user by actually bringing them the information of what is going on. And that's what we're now trying to solve with that proactive insights part, and actually bringing directly already into the UI where you might be working, for example, a dashboard or as part of a workspace or some other areas. super short on KPI details. A lot of fixes went on user experience in general, targets and thresholds configuration, and what you can do with assigning those. And of course, the best part there is that KPI signals part that actually that does that noise cancellation on top of analytics data that literally highlights what is going on inside your data.
Yeah, and I'll get that on the roadmap for an Academy session as well, because it has been either a year and a half or so, or 2 years since we did KPI details, and then also including the proactive insight. So I'll definitely get that on the schedule as well. So I appreciate you bringing that up. So it looks like that there are no outstanding questions. So once again, RJ, greatly appreciate your time, especially doing this somewhat kind of twice. Let's see what Paul says. Is it safer to wait for Vancouver or another version? I might need some context to that question.
If it's Vancouver in relation to what I showed, you will not have the activation or migration flow yet. You will indeed also have the abilities, as many of the things that I actually showed within. Like those capabilities, many of those are already there, but they're currently still in what we position to be the Platform Analytics workspace. That is the thing that is also changing as soon as you move into Washington. So yeah, I think it's always hard to say what's sort of the safest thing for a customer. It of course depends on all other elements within for you. Vancouver is absolutely an amazing release with a ton of extra features, but for the actual activation and migration, it's Washington and beyond.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, so again, like I said, thank you, Robert-Jan, for doing this second time, and great content, lots of great questions. It's awesome to have so many questions come in, and having Marta and Olga and Dan here to answer those questions, as you're actually presenting, I think is really great. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and start going. If another question pops in, we'll get to it, but I'll go ahead and start closing this out. So again, thank you, Robert-Jan, Olga, Marta, and Dan. So you've talked to this before, but I'll talk to it. If you have any desire to help sort of shape platform analytics going towards the future, here is a great opportunity for you. I know that they're still taking sign up, so scan that QR code, and someone will be in contact with you about potentially being a customer that we can do some things with, and get more information about what the future holds, and have some input on that type of things as it relates to the ServiceNow platform. Always make sure that you're checking out the community. You can scan here. If you're not familiar with the link, it'll take you to it. We have really great information there, getting started, FAQs, best practices, training. More and more content from what Robert-Jan talked about today will be added to that as well. It's actually changed the name there. That screen shot there is a little bit old. It actually says Platform Analytics Experience now, so we're trying to load that up with information as well. This again will be out in the community later on this afternoon. It really depends on when I get the link, or if not tomorrow morning, we'll put it out there, and it'll be on YouTube as well. Check out the pro tips. If performance analytics, platform analytics, next experience analytics is new to you, these really small videos, like 4 or 5 minute videos, is really great for you to watch. And myself and Dan and Tara, my other coworker, we just have sort of a fireside chat where we talk about the progress and going through some different things. So check that out as well. Definitely check out Now Learning. There's great content there. More and more content is being added to that all the time. And I can expect when we get to Washington, Xanadu, and things where Next Experience Analytics is out there, there'll definitely be some training that will be there then. There's definitely not any there now, but there will be in the future. We're still doing the What's New in Vancouver, and there's still some ones that are out there. So if with our sister Academy sessions that are out there, they're putting them on. We did ours about a month ago, so it's already out there, but scan that document there, and it can definitely get you to the links for all of those. Will you please post URLs here so we can click on the links? Are you talking about for the QR codes? I don't have them at my fingertips real quick, but if you go to the community, which hopefully you are familiar with, I can post the link for that, and that will have the that'll have the links for all of the different ones that are part of this. I'll make sure that they're added to that. So now in 2 weeks, we will have Mastering Data Relationships, a deep dive into dot walking, related lists, remote tables, and database views. So come back in 2 weeks and we'll have that with some really great content, some demos around that as well. And as usual, thank you all for joining. Thank you for the presenter and all of the panelists that are answering questions. Very engaging, a lot of good content covered today and 2 weeks ago. So it's greatly appreciated. So we'll see everybody in 2 weeks. Have a great day.